Yeah.
Okay,
there we go. No, it's on.
Hey, guys, let's get at it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Selectmen's meeting on February 27, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Let's stand up and pledge.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's go and approve the minutes from the regular meeting on February 13th.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Go ahead. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Community relations announcement and open forum.
Good evening. Announcements for the Board of Selectmen meeting February 27th, 2024. Nomination papers for the 2024 annual town election are available in the town clerk's office. Please see the town's clerk election page on the town's website for open seats. Early voting for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary and special state election will take place during regular office hours during the week of February 26th. See the website for details. Presidential primary and special state election, March 5th, 2024, Heritage School from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. March is National Quilt Month, and Charlton Public Library is celebrating with the following programs and events. All month, we will have beautiful quilts on display that was donated to the Friends of Charlton Public Library by the Cornerstone Quilt Guild for a fundraiser. Visit the library for more information. On Saturday, March 2nd, from 10:30 to 12, the library welcomes award-winning quilter Timna Tar for a presentation and trunk show in Dexter Hall. Register on the library events calendar to attend. This program is funded in part by a grant from the Charlton Cultural Council, a local agency which is supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency. On Saturday, March 16th, from 10 to 2, the Cornerstone Quilt Guild will host their annual mini quilt display and demonstration in Dexter Hall. No registration required, so please stop by.
I only want to add that Blueberry Festival is looking for volunteers. If anybody has any interest in helping out, please let us know. You can reach us on the website, on the town website. Thank you. Appointments and resignations. Oh, anybody for open forum?
All right, so appointment for the first appointment is for register of voters per Mass General Law, Chapter 51. Voters, when a register of voters term is about to expire, we must notify the chairman of either the Democratic Town Committee or Republican Town Committee of this and ask them for a list or a recommendation of appointment for someone to fill the next term. The appointments are made by the Board of Selectmen. We contacted the Democratic Town Committee acting Chairman Pat Stockwell, and their recommendation is for the board to reappoint Geraldo Alcea as registrar of voters Democrat until April 1st, 2027, and I recommend the board make the appointment.
So moved to think it through.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a resignation. Attached is a resignation from Bill Fenner as the local inspector effective March 1st, 2024. He's offered to stay on to assist up to 15 hours a week until a replacement is hired. He was appointed by the town of Palmer as their building commissioner. So say a little bit of a career progression for him. So congratulations, but the board should accept his resignation.
Motion with regret and congratulations, Bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Scheduled appointments. New business.
Right, the Mary Martha Guild has a request for a special alcoholic beverage license. Attached is an application submitted by the Mary Martha Guild for a special alcoholic beverage license to be used on March 23rd, 2024 and November 16th, 2024 from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at St. Joseph's Church Hall for a meat raffle. The application has been reviewed and approved by the police chief, building commissioner, and fire department. Per the board's policy, if the special alcoholic beverage license is approved, The date of the license should be for the day before the event to allow the alcohol to be delivered, the day of the event, and the day after the event to allow alcohol left over to be picked up.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the special alcoholic beverage license as submitted by Mary Martha Guild for a meat raffle. The dates on the license to be March 22nd, 24 through March 24th, 24, and November 15th, 24 through November 17th, 24, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. respectively.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is a request from the Overlook for a request for special alcoholic beverage license. It attaches an application submitted by the Overlook for a special alcoholic beverage license to be used March 7th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 88 Massachusetts Road for the Charlton Fire Department dinner. Application has been reviewed and approved by Police Chief, Building Commissioner, and Fire Department. The same policy applies to this license as well.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the special alcoholic beverage license as submitted by the Overlook for the Charlton Fire Department dinner, with the date on the license to be March 6th through March 8th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Scholarship questions for 2024. Each year, the town of Charlton is charged with awarding students for the following scholarships. The Nehemiah B. Stone Scholarship, which was given to the town to be used for scholarships for graduating seniors of Shepherd Hill Regional High School and Bay Path Vocational High School who reside within the boundaries of what was formerly School District Number 2 in the town of Charlton. The Jesse Smith Educational Fund, which was given to the town with the general intent and purpose to assist in providing educational advantages for children of the districts 3 and 4 in Charlton. The Edwin Phillips Cooking Fund, which was accepted by the town in 1915 with the general intent and purpose to assist in teaching the art of cooking and domestic science. And the M. Wayne Colby Scholarship is awarded by the family. In order to qualify for these scholarships, the Board of Selectmen chooses a question and essay form to be completed by students who are interested in applying for one or more of these scholarships. With the assistance and recommendation of the schools, the Board of Selectmen can choose the most qualified recipients. After reviewing past questions, I would recommend the board consider the following question for the Nehemiah B. Stone Scholarship, Jesse Smith Educational Fund, and M. Wayne Colby Scholarship. If you were to run for public office, what 3 issues would your campaign be based on and why? And for the Edwin Phillips Cooking Fund, I would recommend the following. What role models in your life influenced you to continue in the food service industry and where you see yourself in the future?
I think that both those questions are fantastic and motion to approve.
Second.
Second, I'm only gonna, a point on this is we didn't get too many applications last year. So we should do something extra, something more, something, I don't know, to get it out to the schools, maybe school committee, maybe,
Maybe student representatives.
yeah, guys, you make social media definitively, town website, because how many did we get last year? Do you remember? I know that there was not enough.
Yeah, we had some that didn't.
Yeah, it was
we didn't have that
disappointing.
many. We didn't have that. many.
Yeah. I know that they were hanging them in a Shepherd Hill, office. Can you check on this?
Yeah,
Yeah, like how is that being communicated with the students?
yeah, it typically goes through the guidance officer or the guidance office, so I can,
And maybe we can hang it on on that wall there in the office, and same for Bayfest. How to get the word out there. Thank you very much. That's that.
All right, so applications are due back in our office by May 1st, 2024, and will be brought to the board for awarding at a future meeting.
And now, all the business.
All right, first one up is the discussion on fire station project. So as previously discussed, the board is scheduled to discuss options relative to financing strategies for the fire substation project. The committee has been meeting to finalize site layout configurations, minimize impacts to flooding properties. The project team is on schedule to receive schematic design estimates the first week in April. And we're presenting options based on the feasibility study, which factored escalation to a winter 2024 construction start when it was done. Attach our financial options for consideration to begin the planning process ahead of whatever necessary votes we're going to be considering on this. And Chief Knopf is here to discuss the project and all the available funding options. So here I kind of outlined just a few things that we kind of around talking points. I do want to qualify it. You know, this is based off the feasibility. And once we have the schematic design, knowing that there has been some shifts in the building and we're kind of tightening things up, these numbers can fluctuate. So I just kind of want to sit and say we are in the planning process around this, but subject to change.
So, Madam Chair. So for those at home, again, you can check out on our webpage the details, but most of you are probably going to be concerned with what it's going to impact your overall tax bill. There's going to be 4 different options that are laid out. They range from a high of $236 for the average homeowner per year. Again, this is all tentative. 214 is the second one, 179, I'm rounding here, so is the third one, and 140 is the fourth one. So 236 roughly on the high end, 140 on the low end per year, depending on like how many years that we go for. So that's, we're gonna get, I'm sure, getting a bunch of details, but for those at home, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Madam Chair, and if I may follow up to Mr. Borowski's comment, if I may ask Andrew. Again, for those at home, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, by the time this, and this is important to the decision-making process. By the time this would actually hit a tax bill for a resident, other debt exclusions may be coming on. So I think it's important for people at home and members of this board to know what's coming off in the dollar amount and when, because you could be looking at, to Bill's point, a 179 or a 140. If we're putting 140 on at the same time 140 is coming off, then effectively there's no tax increase. Now, to Bill's, what he said many times, it's just a perpetual, it's a permanent tax increase. You keep adding things as they go away, but the reality is, in the end, it would still be a wash. So I think it's important for this board and people at home to know when this would actually impact them and what would be coming off on the other end.
So the largest debt exclusion that we're still carrying right now, the last year of it is for the DPW project is FY 25. So after FY 25, it's about $200,000 a year that will drop off of the assessment. I'm sorry, I don't have that calculated out as to what that currently impacts. But the debt exclusion would hit the tax bill 1 year after completion. So once the bonds are issued on the final project, 1 year after that. Right now, we're projecting that to be approximately FY 27, FY 28.
Okay, so, are you right? So we're one before this would actually even hit.
Correct.
And 2 years in between. At least.
Approximately, at least 2 years.
My 2 cents just for discussion, to kind of kick things off. I like option 3 at the moment, which again, for those at home, it would be and Andrew, correct me where I go astray. It's a 15-year borrowing cost. The year one is gonna be $179.60 for an increase, and that I believe decreases over time.
So I should say, the debt exclusion we look at for a 20-year, on a 20-year borrow.
Yeah.
So year one, it would be about $1.1 million excluded. And that would depreciate down to $678,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading this wrong.
On the
That's
last,
fine.
on the 20th year, so you're gonna see that drop off at the time.
Yep.
The next column underneath that is what we would look to try to fund under the loan.
Gotcha. Sorry, my
So
bad.
looking at it as almost 2 different loans.
Mhm.
One is an excluded loan for 20 years and one is as $2.3 million underneath the levy limit borrowed over 15.
My concern with option 4,
Borrowed over how many years?
15.
15 years.
my concern with option 4 for the board is that it takes a lot under the levy limit, which generally I'm not necessarily like opposed to. However, knowing the costs, knowing that at year 15, at least under the levy limit, we break even. I think that helps our longer term strategic planning. And the delta between option 3 and option 4 is approximately $40 per year. But I think option 3 gives us more liquidity and flexibility, while at the same time making, again, putting enough under the limit so that it minimizes the tax increase as best we can without being too harsh.
Madam Chair, my thoughts on these, like Bill, I like option 3 and 4.
Yep.
Those two, which have also the least impact to the residents. I also tend to defer the banker, but, I do lean toward option 3 and 4.
But the difference between 3 and 4 is it puts us in a little bit of a predicament. Depending on what the schools do. If the schools come in and say they want another $1 million a year, and we're already tied into both, 2 bonds at that point.
Well, I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you say 2 bonds, what do you mean?
Well, because we're talking about the soft cost and the original cost, right?
So I kind of broke this out, that option 3 says that the almost borrowing as the construction cost, you're excluding the debt of the construction itself.
Mhm.
All of your soft costs, all of your engineering design, that
That's
all
under the levy.
falls underneath the levy limit.
So the debt exclusion under option 3 would be 13.4, or 13,
Then, yeah,
basically
and
13
change.
million rounded. Option 4 would be 10 million.
yeah, and like Andrew said, this is just, those costs are only based, those numbers are only based on a feasibility study that we have, it could be very well, 2 here or more.
Yeah, it could be
2
more, could be
billion,
less.
yeah. So,
Yeah. Steve,
so-
I'm sorry again, I didn't mean to interrupt that, so I just want to make sure.
right, no, I got you.
No.
So, yeah, so I definitely, see Bill's point. From a strategic perception, I think option 3 is good, but given the past voting patterns of the voters, they don't want tax increases. So I think we need to consider minimizing them, but because we definitely need this fire substation. So, I'm open to option 4, but I do think, option 3 is better for the town strategically, but if it means option 4 to get us through, get this passed, then I will support that as well.
Madam Chair, may I just throw a curveball? Why couldn't we? Because the bottom line is the board's gonna make a recommendation. But we don't have the final say. Anyway, the people are gonna decide, they're gonna vote yes or no. Why couldn't we put option 3 and 4 both on a warrant? And when we discuss the first option with town meeting voters, we explain why one option is preferred by this board. And if they agree and they like it, we just postpone the other article indefinitely and it dies. But they know that there's another option if they don't like it, and they can fail the first one knowing they have the option 4.
So. Madam Chair, I think when we're talking, just for strategy and timing, I think what we wanted to look at timing, we wanted to see if we need to go to exclusion, the next election is beginning of May, with town meeting in the middle of May. So that's where it was like, all right, we're not gonna have that town meeting to feel out the town meeting voters before we get to a ballot. Unless the board's willing to consider a standalone ballot question. But I know that that's not popular with this board, otherwise you'd have to wait until the November election.
But we don't put a number on the ballot for debt exclusion, do we?
That is one thing that we've been talking about with our bond
Yeah.
council, is that by going the 13.4 method, we could put in a. Why is that?
Would we have to?
That is what we brought up to them, they said that that was possible.
Yeah, I suppose what I'm getting at, because I actually,
Possible, but is not, you have to.
Right,
but I was, because I didn't think of David's idea, I think it's a good one, that if we just use case itself for a second, and again, Steve and Bob, so much how you must feel, but based on like Pete, me, Dave. If option 3 or 4, what are the 2 options? Again, this is hypothetical. We have the election first, and we put it on there saying, do you support doing a debt exclusion to be determined at town meeting 2 weeks later? All right, if the answer is no there, well, it's all dead in the water. But if the answer is yes, you walk into the May town meeting, what is it, 2 weeks later, or a week or 2 later, whatever it is. And you provide the 2 options for, although, does that mess, no, actually, that would mess up our budget.
No.
Yeah,
But
no,
then you
I don't-
provide the 2 options to say, which one do you want?
Because I think in the past, the biggest issue wasn't that people didn't want, I think they voted for the fire station, but they shot down how we were gonna pay for it. So this method not only gives the voters, well, it doesn't matter, they have the power anyway, the voters already have the power, they're gonna decide yes or no, but this, if we can make this work somehow, I think would give the voters not just yea or nay, but two real options to look at financially, and positions the fire department to not have to look at, well, there's one option, it's pass or fail. You know, there's actually then, okay, if you guys like this, we're all set. If you don't like that, there's another option that we can talk about to still make this happen.
That could be brought up at town meeting, though. I don't think you need to have two separate.
No, we could, I don't think at town meeting we could
I-
do an amendment on the
It
amount.
would be complicated.
Yeah.
In my opinion, option 1 and 4, I'm not with that. I like option 3 the most, for the reasons that you guys brought up. I'm not opposite completely to 4. I just don't think that it's worth the confusion. And I think the more we're gonna put anywhere out there to confuse the people, the less, susceptible they will be for what it is that we were trying to do. And, putting the number on it, I'm really with it. I think that full transparency, this is what it is in the best, as far as we are with the numbers. And I would like to see the actual number. So
Right.
people know, and the taxation wise too, we don't know, again, it's a not the soft cost, but the feasibility study numbers based. So we don't even know, we can just talk about different options, but there could be a big difference from 13 million to 10 million, that 3 million could potentially be, school funding. Or roofs or something. I think 3 million is a lot of money, is what I think. It's a big difference to me.
And I think we need to consider that at fall town meeting, this project has a lot of momentum. It was 80% in the positive, 20% maybe in the negative. It might even been higher than that.
Yeah.
So we just gotta keep that momentum going. I think the people trust us. They know we need it. They
Right.
understand it. It's been well thought out.
Agree to, right on the point.
I would go. for
Transparency.
number- I would go for number 3.
Well, they trusted us last time and it still failed 2 or 3 times.
I know,
So-
but they have to have the firm numbers. And, if you have $40 here, $40, and this is based on 430,000 medium assessed value of the house. I mean, we're going from anywhere from 700 to 400. So it could be, that number doesn't really,
Oh, yeah, that's just the average number.
just the average number, which, it's more towards probably the lower end. So until we have I think the more firm numbers, I think that's when we should,
Well, does anyone believe we should pursue options 1 or 2?
no, I mean, not in my,
I mean, I don't. but-
me either.
So then we're just down to 3 or 4. And honestly, I'm okay with either one. It's just which one is more probable in our estimation to pass both, don't forget, it's both the ballot and town meeting.
Yeah, I just think that this should not be a question of if we need the fire station, and the difference between the 3 and the 4 should not be a deal breaker at this point. Where on the flip side, that say there is a $3 million difference, that could do some good somewhere else. People want to do it, they're gonna do it, for such a small difference in taxation. That's my opinion. And that confuses, the more we put out there, the more people are confused, the more starting to think about it, talk about it, defeat it in their minds. Like I said, again, my opinion, option 3, full transparency, full as the best that we can do as far as the numbers are concerned, and put it right there on the paper, so people don't have to, wonder about it and seek opinions of others.
See, I'm curious why bond council thinks we can put a number on the ballot. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life.
He seemed strong, to give a strong indication that was a practical approach.
It might be practical, I'm just not sure it's legal.
I know, but it's like they're gonna draft, they're gonna be responsible for the
But
draft.
isn't what happened with the Dudley, with the, skull budget, people were all confused about all different numbers, they were calculating the taxation, they were going from this to this to there, and this is what, I just don't want that commotion, this is so important, and so needed for this town.
Yeah, I think though a lot of the confusion. It doesn't matter how I say it, I'm pissed off, doesn't it? Yeah, but a lot of that confusion, I think, just came from what many people feel was a mismanaged process from Dudley, and I'll leave it at that. Charlton was pretty clear, I think, all along. And I think just to hopefully allay, Ms. Rossman's fears, whether you go with option 3 or 4, or whether we find a way to put them both on as separate articles, each individual article is going to be explicitly clear for the people of Charlton what's happening. There won't be any confusion.
Madam Chair, I think as we're looking at the numbers right now and knowing that we're still kind of waiting on the schematic design portion of it, I think if we're able to commit to, say, a 1304 number and say that that's the number that we're going to take to a debt exclusion vote. And then if there's any variance from that after the schematic design, that goes under the left. And that number changes and we adjust accordingly.
That's a fair comment.
And just so that way, if we want to start advertising for this debt exclusion now, we can take that 13.4 to the bank. Rather than kind of waiting out another month and saying, well, we're still waiting for things to pan out. No, we're gonna ask for an exclusion of 13.4.
Yep.
And the rest of it, we're gonna find a way to fund it.
Yeah, so even if hypothetically, and I hope it doesn't, it goes up to 14, we're still only gonna say debt exclusion of 13.4. What if it goes down to 12? Or why, and
So I should say on the.
You're optimistic.
yeah,
never know.
every once in a while, I try.
And I'll try to qualify this. The exclusion gives you a license to tax. It does not mean that you have to. Like, as I say, because we had a $700,000 excess levy capacity means that we did not even utilize the debt exclusion that we had on the highway garage. So if you have the capacity to do it within your operating budget and keep that, the debt exclusion is simply the license of the town to tax to that.
I can either way on this one. Or I still kind of like David's idea.
I mean, honestly, I like more of it under the levy. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Andrew, if I may, could you humor me? It seems like the majority of the board likes 3 and 4, at least as options. I know Bill, and I think, actually, I won't speak for Bonner, I can't remember if they preferred 3. Pete seems to prefer 4, which is my first choice, although I'm open to 3. Bill says he prefers 3, but he's open to 4. It's the same 2.
Right.
Would you please just humor me and just look into if it's possible to have the article crafted for both option 3 and 4? And if we find out that we can do that,
Yeah, and I don't think the article would be as much of an issue if town meeting wasn't before the debt, it wasn't before the vote.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we kind of get in the weed,
so we
kind of
gotta
in the weeds a
so we
little
can
bit. We're not
put
gonna-
a number in.
I'd like to have a number as long as we can legally put that number on the ballot. Because otherwise, we got to exclude the project. And then it's just a matter of you're more or less an option 2, and you're hoping that the town is recognizing that we're gonna do everything in our best interest and keep that fit money within the levy.
I mean, I'm open to 3 and 4.
All right, how about for discussion?
I would,
I'm sorry.
I would-
Go ahead.
no,
Please go ahead.
I would make a motion to, adopt option 3 for discussion.
I'll second for discussion. But I'd like to caveat it with Andrew's piece to say not to exceed 13.4 or 13.04. So if it does come in higher than that, we're not going to exclude 14, we're not going to exclude 13.5, it's just 13.04. Yeah, so if you wanted to amend your motion, or how you want to handle it, I'd be happy to second that as well for discussion.
I would amend the motion to that.
Then I will happily amend my second.
Yeah. Chief, you wanna add anything?
At the end of the day, this is a funding mechanism.
Yeah.
And, what I have to say to that is it's not relevant.
We're in a different time and place in the public safety building, but remember when years ago we went out for that, it was 28 million is what we asked the town. They said yes. The bids came back at 23 and change. That might not happen nowadays. But I was watching being on the committee, I was watching what the architects are doing, and they're padding that, accounting for inflation, a lot of the things. I wouldn't be surprised if this came back in a total in 14, 15 now. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
we're not gonna know that at the end though, because they're gonna still put that
That's true.
50% in.
We
and then at
can't
the
count
end,
on it. We can't count on it, but
So I would just temper that because that's a nice to have.
Right.
If it does come in lower, that's great. But we talk about being transparent. We want to give them the number up front.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah,
Here
oh,
it
yeah.
is. And, if it's less, then it's Christmas in July, right?
Right,
Yeah.
imagine that, that would be good.
So I'm fine with going forward with the 13.04. Which would be for now, for the average homeowner's appraisal value, around $180, $179.60 to be exact, under option 3 for now.
And this,
But I will be very upset with bond council if they come back and say that you can't put a number on the ballot, because I don't think you can, but that's okay. So,
All right, so,
And
Okay.
Andrew, just so that everybody at home understands, this is standalone project costs. It has nothing to do with the schools, nothing to do with the highway department rolling off. This is just this project on its own, stands on its own.
Right, I'm
merit.
not factoring anything to say, well, we can make these numbers look a lot better if I factor in other things that are gonna fall off. No, this needs to kind of look at it.
Yep.
As what it is.
That's important.
and also to add that we already spent that, the cost of the schematics, the 400,000 and 100,000.
The town's already paid.
So
for
we spent
3
a
line
lot.
items. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
already gone through that. So-
and Basha, through you, again, for like a team discussion. Andrew, that pay down funds, the 1.5, that's where we're thinking on taking out a capital, like cap state.
Yeah, that's the money that we've been putting
Yeah.
into that. But, just kind of putting in there too is that we also have, we have a healthy stabilization fund. It's met our policy, but it's a funding source. We still have $400,000 in free cash that has not been allocated in the current fiscal year that we don't have, that we haven't committed elsewhere. And then we have another approximately $100,000 in bond proceeds that can go toward this project. And actually really should go toward this project because it can only be used for long-term capital.
So town meeting would have to approve this plus the transfer from cap state for however much we want. So if we use free cash, the 400 and the 98, we'll still have to take a little, well, basically let's just call it a flat middle from the capitalization fund to make this happen.
Yeah.
But you would think if you pass one, you pass the other. All right, anyway, I've said my piece. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, me too.
So is this motion negating David's request to see if both can be on the article?
Yes.
I think for now, yes, but not for now, I'd say yes, even though I think it's a good idea.
All right,
The motion would just to put number 3 on.
all right, so, let's vote. Do you get a motion?
Yeah, Steve made the motion. I have a second.
The second, all in favor? Thank you, chief.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Any opposed?
Unopposed,
May I ask, Andrew, since it's the board's decision to go with 3, could you craft, I guess I'll just call it a back pocket amendment for option 4?
Yeah.
So that is ready to go at town meeting? So that should there be an issue, we have the ability to pull out an article ready to go as an amendment.
Because between now and then, actually, how about this? What I recommend though is, to Selectman Singer's point, could we still investigate that? Because we don't close the warrant for a few more weeks. So to David's point, that might give us some back pocket flexibility to potentially add it on.
I don't see a
Why are
harm.
we voting on option 3 right now? That makes, if we're gonna still investigate.
We're not investigating, we're just investigating the possibility of putting the details on a wall, correct?
You just wanted to have it.
Yeah.
As-
As a back.
There's no option, yeah,
Well, I think we're voting now. Just to-
yeah, it's already done, we already voted, so.
to give- to
Pete,
give-
did we get it?
I'm there.
Pete, yeah. Pete, no, abstain, yeah, is it good? Can we move on with that? All right, so moving on.
I just wanted, Chief, did you want to give any update on the project or anything?
Oh, yeah.
From today's
Sure,
meeting.
yeah.
So in the process of getting to schematic design, we had a subcommittee meeting with the architects and the our representative. And again, we've been working with the abutters to kind of alleviate some of their concerns and certainly take in their concerns to the best that we can with the site. The site has its limitations as well, so we're only allowed or able to manipulate it so much. We came up with what I thought was a pretty good compromise that kind of appeased across the board as far as, now again, you know, we can have a different conversation when the abutters show up and they may say something different, but we took their concerns into consideration and we were able to manipulate the building as far away from their line of sight and their property to make it work.
By the way, shout out to Steve, Ed, Scott Cedar, Ken Ripel, and everyone else involved with that committee. You guys have really done like an amazing job. I mean, I kind of seagull in and out. You guys really do a great job on it.
And the abutters as of today are, from the last meeting, they were going over the new plans they just saw, but I haven't heard any feedback.
We have a meeting next week. It was just
Oh, okay.
a internal meeting today.
I can inform you that the abutters did come down to our station last week. Because they had made the concern about the noise and the tones going off, so we showed them our building or gave them an example of how the tones would sound. And they were very appreciative of giving our time to show them what that was going to entail. So,
Oh, that's good. Great. All right. Thank you, Chase. Moving on.
Wow, so recommendations from the government study committee.
Government study.
So the government study committee completed their review of the 2016 government study white paper report and provided recommendations for the board of selectmen to consider. Operational changes. A copy of their final report is attached, and they've been invited to tonight's meeting to discuss the recommendations of the board.
Well, good evening,
Welcome.
I'm Joe Hagler, Chairman of the committee, this is Jerry Doble, Vice Chair. This will be a home day committee, right?
Yeah.
I literally-
We're gonna be in the same room.
Finance, selectmen, you guys have.
We started this project in May of 2022. And our goal was to look at analyze the 2016 report that was done, very good report. And see what had been accomplished. We also went further and did our own recommendations and investigation. We met with as many departments as we could, and we received good cooperation from all of them. And it was very interesting discussions. And we kept it on the issues. There were no personalities involved, nothing, nobody had an axe to grind. So that was how we approached it. And so I don't know if you want me to go through all the recommendations from 2016. Some that haven't been completed, and some of which are in our recommendations. Particularly if we look at the finance director. Finance director's position was created. By the way, I have to say that one of the great things that was done was to the human resources and financial management. I think was a great improvement from what had been. And so kudos to the town for doing that. But the finance director has not been approved by the bylaw change. Apparently it was supposed to have been. From what I understand, it was pulled at the last minute. But I think that if we do the bylaw change to codify that position, the position will have more opportunity to direct the financial policies. So another thing that was in our report, as well as the 2016 report, was the position of constable. And those they're elected positions now. And in 2016, they wanted to make an appointed position. but it was defeated at town meeting. And, some of the reasons for that is obviously there are some positions in town that some years we don't get anybody to run for the six. Tree warden, constables, sometimes we do, sometimes we get some good ones. But to continue with that, to have good constables, and people that will take the job seriously, the idea of appointed is much better, because you get people who are qualified, and you know they're gonna do the job.
One thing I'd like to add is, in front of the constable, and Brad is here, you have to be level-headed, and it's almost a police-type action, not an officer, I don't mean it like that. But you really have to be level-headed and be able to take abuse. And I think somebody just running for election and being elected probably has no idea what they're getting themselves into. So that's one of the reasons that.
Most people running for selectmen say that.
And it puts the whole town,
Yeah.
it exposes the whole town.
Well, one of the things that happens on some of these that are elected, like the town clerk or the tree warden or the constables, is where it puts the town in legal situations. If these people mishandle some of this stuff, the town can be in some serious
Oh, yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we recommend that it be appointed, so you can look at the people, evaluate it, and go from there. But moving on.
Just to let you know, the town treasurer used to be an elected position.
Did it really back in the day?
Yes, way back when. You have to understand, I've been around a little bit. Don't you say anything.
High school history, not gonna say.
Okay, continuing on, the chain of command, organization, that's been improved tremendously. Andrew, I think, has made a chart.
First thing I did, I beat COVID.
Even Bruce is here with it.
That's true.
Okay, one of the big problem we have in town is volunteerism. And that, it needs to be addressed somehow. We have people that volunteer for everything. There's one right here. And they, we have some areas that we're trying to get people. And so, this shows up in elections too. Because, you know, there's one time in election was so boring, the girls gave me the needle point. I'm lucky to be alive.
As a point on the volunteering, Steve, and we're back to Old Home Day again, but Steve, at the Old Home Day meeting, we decided we're gonna try to set up, not Old Home Day itself, but set up a little group that goes out and looks for volunteers for these things. And Steve was gonna lead us in that.
I'm ready for tomorrow night. I've got everything, right?
Yeah,
Mary printed everything I need.
so,
And the job that I volunteered for, strictly for that, is membership chair. You have to be out there hunting, you really do, and especially nowadays. But I've asked, out of 10 people, 12 people, maybe 10, 11 people I've asked, I got 3. And one is treasurer.
Yeah.
Right out of it. So sometimes people just want to be asked, but then you have to let them fill out, let them do what they want to do too, right? You can't bore them after that. You got to keep them. It's almost like an HR position.
I think that, what he's working on is a good idea, whether it's for Old Home Day or the town in general. I think that's something that's a good thing, and you're doing a good job with it.
Yeah.
Continuing here, the, one of their points was that, looking at the camaraderie in the town offices. And this has improved greatly. There's been a lot of people who worked hard to do that. The question is, how do you keep that? How do you keep that going year after year? This is where vigilance and, particularly those people who are hired, who are not elected. And so that's something that's a challenge for any town. The planning board director was in the full position, and let's see. That evaluations of the employees, some departments do that, other departments don't yet, and some have good reason for it. I don't want to name any specifics on that. Let's see, we have had an IT person, and that, I'll tell you, having been on another board, that has been a godsend. Because the IT person understands the process and has been a great help. Okay. So I think we should get into our recommendations. And do you have any questions on the 2016?
No, I'm already reading the 2023 one.
How long did you work on it? A year? She said, how long
How long?
did you work on this?
Oh, a year and a
I
half.
was gonna say it was loud, right?
It was a while, yeah.
Now, Steve, you can't read ahead. You know, that's what. Our first recommendation is about the town clerk's position, and I know Karen is supposed to be on the agenda, and I don't know if you want to come up and join us for this, but we looked at this and, looking at the position of the town clerk is very, very important. There are towns, you look at what they do, and it's not a part-time position at all. It's a full-time job. Unfortunately, right now in an election, if I get elected and I don't feel like going in, well, I just only work 2 days a week. I could do that legally. There are so many other things involved with it, with state and federal laws that need to be adhered to. Running elections is just one major part of it. And there are all types of other things like dog licenses, marriage certificates and everything. There was one case way back in the old days where a person went to get their marriage certificate and it wasn't there at the town clerk's office. The town clerk had left it at home. And they had to go down and get it the day of the wedding. I'm not mentioning any names, but I know the people involved in this. So it needs professional management. It needs an accountability, and particularly in this day and age where politics are going wacko. There's a lot involved in it. And Karen, I don't know if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, I think with all the changes that the legislature's put through, especially with having to do with elections, and not even now, we have new, they're changing our state system and all that's gonna be new, and they're changing our marriage, death, vital records. So that's increasing, and every time they do that, it just makes it more work somehow instead of less. But the election part is really, really it changed the job and changed the office. I can't imagine, I mean, I've been in there for 14 years. I can't imagine walking in this year and never having set foot in a town clerk's office before. It just, and people do it, but you're not gonna keep them at that point. You really need someone that's got some background, that's been an assistant somewhere else. And you know, if you have an assistant that does live in town, they can't move up into the town clerk's position. I just think it puts, Joe, does put the town at risk. It's a really important job, and you want someone that can do it. Anybody can learn it. I'm not saying it's not, you know, it's not accounting that you have to have gone to school for it, but it's just a lot. It's a lot, and a lot of state laws that change like every month, it seems. So, you know, I just think it's time. It's changed, like I said, in that time, just since I've been there, it's changed a lot. So I think, you know, in the past, I think since I've been in the town, it's probably gone to ballot twice and hasn't passed, but it wasn't really, you know, advocated to make the change, so.
One thing I'd like to say about that is you really need a professional, not necessarily a doctor or something, but somebody that's a professional in her capacity. And then the legal liabilities the town can face if she messes something up, it can be extremely expensive, is the best way to put it. And to me, it's the legal responsibility that she has for the town and trying to keep the town out of those pickles you could get into if you have just a rookie show up and trying to do things.
Yeah.
But I've worked in their office on some of the, ballots and things. Boy, if you're not careful with that stuff,
Or
you
you
can be in a lot of trouble fast, and she does a good job with it. But just having worked it, yeah, you've got to be careful with everything you do.
And now, I mean, we've gone, you know, from 1 or 2 elections a year to a 6-month election cycle, right? That we're not in our room right now because we're,
Right, and this year there's 5 elections, it's
We're-
gonna be extra.
yeah, yeah.
And the mail-in ballots really have, they, like, difficult. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, a lot of people love them, but, you know, it's very time consuming,
Yeah.
You know, the early voting's great, but even that isn't, you know, the town clerks, we were open Saturday, we had 20 people maybe, and that was the high end across the state. So people aren't doing the early voting because they're doing the mail-in. So, you know, the legislature might change it, but that's not gonna happen next year.
No, that's probably not gonna happen.
It's,
So do we want to take these one at a time, or I would make a motion that we put on the,
sort of discussion.
Before we do this, I just want to,
I'm reading ahead again, I'm sorry.
you're reading ahead. Attention. I looked at this and, the state law. And what you have to do is has to go ballot vote and town meeting vote. Now, this is, I could put the citation in here. Now, check this, the town of Arlington is doing that this year.
And a ballot vote,
That the
not
ballot
just
and
town meeting, and a ballot vote,
Yeah.
and then approval from the state. So this is a process.
Yeah, you can't do it for selectmen or school committee. This process, you can change it to an appointed position, but, it's something that when it happened earlier this last year, I said to myself, it doesn't sound right. And so I looked it up with the help of the town clerk's office and the help of the state senator's office. And, confirmed that, and with help with Andrew. And I think that has the town council agreed on this?
He agreed on the town clerk portion. It was the tree warden that he pushed back on and said that didn't require the ballot.
Because there's nothing in MGL about it.
So
There's a separate
I
MGL that
would-
references.
I would question that, but I'm not a lawyer. I only have 5 opinions.
So I'm not necessarily opposed, but I think there, you know, there's potentially more work to be done. To making sure that we're, as a board, would assign or appoint somebody appropriately, like a list of competencies. You know, what is the evaluation process? What terminates removal?
Yeah.
You know, because we're taking away from the general public, putting it in the hands of the select few. So I think for transparency purposes, we need to be if we were to move forward with this, we would need to be very clear what qualifies the board for appointing somebody and what is grounds for removal from that position too. So,
Right.
you know, in my opinion, I mean, I think we need more
Right
work
now,
on that.
Yeah.
Karen has 1 more year left. Is it 2 more years? Okay. And according to the law, if this is passed, she continues.
Mhm.
And so there's 2 years to come up with the specifics on job and hiring, firing, all that. So there is time in there.
I
And
didn't
that,
have a job description, sorry.
there, you did-
Which I don't have.
You might.
One list.
We also want to, I'm not sure what your name is, but Pete, on our 12th recommendation, going along with what you were saying, we recommend that the town has goals and policies, which that would be a part of. And, I think it's very important for a town to have goals for all the different departments to look at, and then policies for those to follow. And one of the most important policies you have is a policy on how you, if you don't follow your policy, how you justify that. That is also a policy, but it's important to have goals for the town and specific policies of what you want different people to do and how you want them to handle it. And if it doesn't fit into the policy, who to talk to work it out. But, that's, I know I'm jumping ahead, but you brought up policies. That was one of our things that we should have.
No, I definitely appreciate that, but as a voter, I like to educate myself on the candidates, and I like to make my decision. So, you know, I definitely appreciate where you're coming from on this, but I feel as a citizen, you know, a resident of Charlton, this is taking something away from me as a resident.
It's taking away from maybe, but
No,
if elect somebody, and we've seen it in politics, that somebody gets elected and they had no clue what they're doing. And they mess up the job. I won't give you specific examples because I don't want to get political. But if you have somebody who's professional, who knows the laws, knows what they're doing things, they serve you better than this.
Madam Chair, the flip side of that, and just playing devil's advocate, per Karen's own comment, just taking out with new laws, she doesn't know them either, which means she has to learn the new laws as they come out, just as a new clerk would, number one. I'm not advocating for either direction on this, and just, again, pointing out the flip side. The flip side is you have a position that becomes appointed and now becomes a political gamesmanship, where who's connected to the right people in town hall, they get the job. That I've seen that happen.
Well, yeah.
Also, as far as new town clerks appear across the Commonwealth every year, which is why the state does training. Heaven forbid something should happen to Karen or whatever, and you need to get a new town clerk. You can't get anyone now unless they have town clerk experience. You can't get someone who is an HR director in the private world or a CEO. They can be trained. And so just, well, I think it's something to also consider. And I'm going to point out, if I may, that the government study review committee, right, put a lot of time, a lot of effort and thought into this to bring us recommendations. My personal feelings are the board should not sit here and go one by one and just make decisions off the cuff on what we're going to do. We've got the recommendations to take under advisement. I'd rather see us come together in a workshop and go over these and then bring forward our opinions on number 1 through 12 to the public on why with this committee, why we're going to move on this one and not that one, and this one and not that one. We can actually have a thoughtful discussion as a board to go over all of the recommendations.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea if everybody goes through all of that, we could have a meeting at your pleasure and go over in detail.
And yeah, no,
that was the assumption when you guys said it 2 months back that we
We
will,
want
you
to
know,
present it, so
go
you've got
over
it.
this a little bit.
You
on our
can
own.
work on it, and then we can all get together and going over again, but I
Well,
think
there's a lot of
can't do it all
stuff.
tonight.
When do we close the warrant again? Do you remember?
And next week, right, this week.
End of this week. So that's my, and that's with you, that's my concern. It's about something like this, that
If you in the fall.
yeah, if we wait, like we'll have to wait till the fall, which is not a terrible thing, but you know,
It just means,
I think
the fall.
because we can gather all that information.
But my personal feeling is something like this should be in the manual.
yeah, I agree with you, Joe.
I can just, sometimes in the fall meetings, we sort of slip things in there. I've been around, I know, but,
But as long as, David, I agree, as long as if we're gonna form that committee and get together and talk about it. But we're looking at 2 different ones. 2016, I don't think anyone's acting on that one. Now it's 2023. And we have to act on this one.
Actually, if you read the report they submitted, they give the progress on 16. This has been accomplished, this has been accomplished, this is in progress. So actually, the other ones have all had progress or accomplishments on them completed. There's only actually, in fact, I don't think there's a single one from 16, or another one that had nothing done or no accomplishments or isn't already on, either done or almost.
that was our original charge.
So, Madam Chair, the way I think about it is that, and again, we can go through all the details, is that there are 12 recommendations, and again, thank you to the committee, you guys, did a fantastic job. Really, I think what it comes down to is, does this board want to proceed with, the way I look at it, it's really around the bylaw changes, so around potentially constables, tree warden, and town clerk, and potentially passing a bylaw for the finance director. Do we want to proceed for that in May? Do we want to table it, for lack of a better word, for further discussion until the fall, which I would prefer, like Mr. Habler, I would prefer we wait the worst until next May to see what happens. Because if we have to close the warrant
In a week.
in a week, where they're determining tonight that we're gonna proceed with warrant changes in May, or we're gonna sit on this for months, if not a year.
Joe,
The one that we recommend to be done immediately is the first one, town clerk. The others can wait. I mean, because they're not, yeah, they're important, but they're not as crucial, in our opinion. And of course, she does have an assistant, which otherwise it would be a really tough job. But, this is why it's number one. But the others,
Well, we can do number two, right, Joe, as well?
number two,
Cause that's just cleanup work. That's a finance director
That's
bylaw.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's already done, it's just.
Yeah, and it still needs to be done.
yeah. Let me just go through the rest of it, we can get back to them. One of the problems that we have in the town hall is, location space. I mean, we have the finance director up over here and to contact, talk with, her other people, just across the building. And some days it can be tough. So she's in a little cubby hole. So to my way of thinking, it's too bad that the furniture company thing didn't pan out, because, I mean, I know all the things wrong with it, and it's too expensive. But to get departments together like that, it's a goal. It won't be done right away. The tree warden, we've done that, and of course, it should be in the Department of Public Works. That's where it is, as well as a facilities manager, someone who can take control of the things that need to be fixed. Again, Public Works. Town records, a lot of them have been digitized, but I think it's important that all of them be digitized. And being an historian, which Bill knows, I would like to see them go back and do all of them. But again, that's a big job for one person. They have companies that do it, and but there's a cost. I mean, might be able to get a grant or something, but because sometimes I've heard of boundary disputes. They go back to the 1700s. I wasn't around then, were you? No. He's actually older than me. So that's a thing. Another issue, and this was brought up by many of the committees, was parking around here. This is an issue, between the library, the ball fields, the senior center, meetings going on here at the town hall. It's a real tough thing. And to look at, a committee that handle that. And of course, this street out here, it goes both ways, and boy, that can be tough sometimes. So that's a recommendation that we think might help the town. Again, I think this was on the last one, the charter commission, just to get the idea of what it would be like to make changes in the government, what it would look like. As it takes a while to do this. And the idea of a town manager versus town administrator. So that's been an old idea for a long time. Department of Public Works. You've got a Public Works director, but you don't have a department. And when we had our meeting in May, I think it was, we had some good discussion, and there were a lot of people that were opposed to it. But what they were talking about, the cooperation between departments, cemetery, recreation, parks, it practically exists. Except in name. So, the highway superintendent, Jerry, was a good man. Was very cooperative with working with other people, and they did a good job on it. So there might be some cost to it, but I don't I personally don't think it's a big thing, but just to get again, because let's face it, things are changing and people in those positions are going to be gone in another 10 years. Chris, I'll be gone in 10 years, or maybe next year. But, you know, it really, I think it would be better coordination for the town. And, okay,
Actually, Basha, do you? So George, I just had a quick question on this. It's somewhat related because we mentioned recreation. I'm curious around your thoughts on the Recreation Commission being appointed versus elected.
well, depends on how you want to do it.
Yeah.
If recreation, I was on it for many years, and we had to take care of the wallets. Well, if you had a recreation committee that could do programs, rather than worry about, well, is the grass
Yeah.
too tall, too short? I think it's a possibility down the line. So,
But that's a hold for now and just keep it elected, like for now.
yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't
we're
look
not-
at that.
Yeah, we think that, the department in general is a good idea.
Yep.
And Parks and Recs would fit under that, cemetery would fit under that, the tree warden would fit under that. And would all be under that department. But it's nothing that has to be done right away. And I'm not sure who, the person that's doing it now, I know Jerry, and any of those departments could call Jerry and he would make sure they had what they needed. If they needed equipment, you know, he'd make sure the backhoe got down there to cemetery to do it. The lawns were mowed, because I believe Jerry had all the contracts as far as the lawns and things around town.
And we have Nick Peel doing it now, who's also doing.
Yeah.
Great job, so.
Yeah,
And there's a good man.
No, absolutely. What about water sewer? So, again, same question, because in my old world, living in Millbury, same type of thing, DPW, everything got reorganized,
Right.
and from what I remember, water sewer got moved under the DPW.
I think that would be a good idea. That'd probably be more difficult than the others.
Yep.
But to me, I would have one department.
Yeah.
That would be all of that kind of.
So something to think about, maybe not. today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Water sewer has its own enterprise fund.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it interesting.
yeah.
But you also, to do this, you'd have to look at the departments that you're absorbing and do some changes there. You know, what their role is. So it can be done.
I think we almost need to tackle this first and that solves some of the other ones, especially like with the tree warden.
Yeah,
You
you're-
need to establish that overarching DPW and then
Yeah.
roll these departments into it. So I think, you know, if we're able to, and it makes sense. If we're able to look at that, then we can take care of some, the other ones on there.
No, I'm with Pete on that one.
But that's a big one.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're right, it needs to be done. Number 10 was the constables. Number 11,
Sorry, Joe. Same thing, Jerry. Speaking of constables. Brad, what do you think? I'm sorry, back through the chair. That's my fault. What do you think? Appointed, elected? You don't care?
My,
Sorry, I didn't mean to make that shit up.
the reason I decided I would run for constable was I just retired and I wanted to pay back the town. But there are many reasons for this, but I wanted to pay back the town because I owed it. Town saved my life. And the ambulance service, the fire department, the police department, I'm very proud of all of them. I wanted to find a way to give back. And it was suggested to me that it might be good for a beginner who's not a politician, who was a railroad engineer, and, you know, not a retired cop from Worcester from 25 years ago. It was a good way, and it's allowed me to meet people. It's fantastic. I like it just the way it is. It's been good to me. I just try to do the best I can.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I guess the last one we have here is a report like this should be done periodically. We did the best we could with it, but we're
Very
not.
good job.
No.
One caveat to this, in number 11, is that nobody from this committee should be on the new committee.
It should be fresh people.
Fresh
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a smart recommendation.
Yeah, we thought of that.
What are you suggesting other than, another one?
What's that?
You said that was
Yeah, the rest I'm still debating.
you said he's like
Really?
number 11. Well, what are you implying about the other 11? He's used to that with me. Nice big cut. Okay.
Bobby Flail.
All right, we don't go into detail.
Bobby playing myself.
So is the real, so I'm just curious for the board, and again, thank you both, this is fantastic. So is the real discussion for tonight at least, because personally, I think we should pursue all of these, just a matter of when, because I really like Pete's idea, especially around figuring out the DPW, because I think a lot of that like has further implications, so I love that idea. So I'm thinking like 1 and 2 are the conversations we might want to have tonight to either say, yes, we're gonna proceed now, or we're gonna table it.
Karen, you just ran last fall, or last spring, right? So
Yeah,
you,
20.
Yeah,
Yeah, you get 2 more years,
so we have 2 more years.
but it's gonna take a while to get this hypothetically passed and moved on, et cetera.
you would
And it has
want
to be
do
before 2
it,
years.
this year, or the latest, for
Right.
May 2025.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's gonna be too many, for me, there's gonna be too many questions to get this on the May ballot.
Can we start with number 2? How about, and then we go back to number 1? So I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt, and I'm gonna ask Andrew to figure out the language with council. That the finance director, basically that the bylaw change be made so that it's above, I don't say it's not above board now, but just to make it official. Because to me, that's a more of an administrative, that it should be there and it's not, and this will just clean everything up.
Remember, I don't think she has, the finance director has the ability to, legal ability to make policy.
So this would allow that to happen, yeah.
It should be the official
Right,
financial.
yeah. So I'm gonna make a motion on that because to me, that's more administrative and cleanup.
A second.
So clarify that to the people watching about whether or not that's taking away all the financial decision making from the board and Andrew.
I don't read it like that,
Because you're giving this
Well,
person
you wanna-
the authority to make financial policy.
but not decisions. That still falls under us. As well as Andrew. Am I correct in that?
Again,
But your decisions now fall.
I can,
On the,
I have.
we can make a policy that articulates that.
Right, because now your decisions though have to now fall within their policy.
See, I look at policies as recommend, well, no,
Policy.
your point is well taken. It's just, maybe it's the definition of policy type of thing.
I'll pull up.
If people want to take it out of the board's hands, then that's a legitimate reason to do that. But
So
if
we
they
have-
don't want to take it out of the board's hands, then it's not.
So we have the draft of what was, pulled back from the last town meeting. I can bring that back before the board, at least give it a cursory review, see if there's anything blatant in there. They're like, oh, wow, that's why it was pulled down.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the board. We'll always have a placeholder on the warrant. As long as everybody's good with it, we can put it onto the.
All right, how about this?
So
then?
then-
I can't remember if I made a motion. on it. Let's, at least for me, let's earmark a place mark,
Mhm.
a placeholder and to discuss it. We're gonna assume it's on the warrant, so we can close it or whatever, but we have the option to like pull it out if it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
That would,
So only for number
Right,
2,
right.
not number 1.
just number 2 for now, because I think that's more, in my eyes, that's more cleanup bylaw. But David brings up a good point. We want to make sure that the language. is there. So then it goes back to number 1
Mhm.
of do we want to proceed for May? Or do we want to discuss it further and talk through it?
I'm personally in the mind of putting it off till the following May. So we have time to actually meet as a board, go over this. I just think there's a lot more to it and a lot more for us to consider than a quick decision this evening. And that would still allow us at least a full year, if not more, before that term is up. So I see it as having plenty of time to act.
If it's gonna be not, well, because you said it goes on on the ballot, then the town meeting, and then it has to go through the rep.
Through the
Yeah.
legislature.
Yeah, but then she would still end up having to run because that would.
But this is 2 years, so we're not gonna so are we gonna make it?
No,
No,
probably not,
Well, you might be close.
no, well, but then
probably not.
we in the same predicament. in my opinion, I'm good to go.
On the town clerk issue, a lot of towns now are going to
Yeah.
appointed town clerk.
Yeah.
And so I think the legislature is attuned to that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if we did it, I don't think it would take long to get it approved from them.
Mhm.
I'm in favor of making this change. Personally, I'd like to see it this May, but
Yeah,
if
me too.
but the reality is that if others feel more comfortable waiting a bit to discuss it, I'm fine with that too, because we can talk to Ryan now, or whoever our next state rep is, along with Paul, to try to like push it through.
Yeah, but same as David said, if we can get it all, articulated. Put the holder on it, it's the same thing. I mean, what is it for us to learn? It just,
Well, I think it's more to discuss.
more to discuss the main issues, but I mean, we're gonna change what's required by the town clerk's job. Might as well change that.
We also want to clarify, with council, whether or not going through the legislature is required on this, because,
Oh, it might not be.
well, as I'm just looking at the
That's
attached section of the law, it says a town meeting vote in the ballot doesn't say anything about, and then through the legislature.
Well,
So,
There might have been.
Isn't that what you're saying, Joe? No? Did you
Well, I
check on
agree
the
with
process of
Walter
that
that
statute?
if it's done the right procedure, it shouldn't be, I didn't see anything about.
Yeah, I didn't see
No,
anything in front of the legislature.
I just assumed.
So there would be no legislative.
Yeah.
I don't see the downside of this, of number one. I don't see a downside. Of
My hesitancy is
not doing it
quickness
now.
of trying to do it now, that we're only gonna talk about it for, even though we've had the packet for a couple of weeks and the committee's done an awesome job. And just let me say, I'm completely, unless someone can really change my mind, I'm completely in favor of making this an appointed position. But again, I'm always open to a better argument. But I'm also cognizant that others may have concerns around rushing through this, and I'd be fine waiting until next May, especially if we find out that we don't need legislative approval. Then
So,
it's a non-issue.
yeah, I mean, I'm not here to try and sway you or anybody else. And it would be inappropriate of me to go down the road of all of the appointments that I've seen happen that were without question politically motivated, so.
What, you mean like selectmen?
We're not appointed, but so I can tell you, as far as like just acting on it tonight, I'd be an automatic no, without time to digest it, think about it, talk about it.
So David, I actually support that, and that goes back to my list of competencies. Competencies are very different than a job description. That's why I think we need to identify competencies that the town clerk needs to hold in order to hold that position, so that we have a transparency and there's not any political motivation on who we're selecting. I mean, we have to justify our actions and, show people why we picked them. And I think in order to have, to be fair, we have to publicly say what those competencies are, and not just say, technicalities of the position. I think we have to define that. That's my opinion.
But right now, we're on an election cycle for town clerk is an elected position. What competencies do they have to follow?
Is that the same?
But we're changing it to the board appointed.
Well, we haven't yet.
You're looking
But
at
competency on
specifics,
the positions
you know, with,
will remain.
knowledge of laws and
Yeah.
things of that.
So making it appointed without what Peter's talking about would be akin to if you had just said, all right, well, we're gonna go town manager, right? And it's elected. Anybody could, right? But no, you actually have for a town manager or a town administrator or a finance director, and we can run down the list. To Pete's point, we've very clearly established what those competencies are going to be. Before, nothing was just done like, oh, all right, here, I like this idea, let's just do it. I mean, none of that work has been done. It's just, I'm not prepared to make that decision tonight. If you guys want to do it, that's fine. You only need 3. I'm just one of the no's.
Just so we're clear, that we would be just having an opinion of the fact, if we all agree with that position to be appointed, obviously there would be a clearly defined, job description as it is. People will have to have faith in us that we will do the best and oversee possibly the best, chain of events that had to happen to put all of those, rules, competencies and everything else in place. I mean, that is, to me, it's the number one, obviously. But no matter what we will, whichever way we will go, we will have the townspeople, well-being in mind, no? I mean,
We always
we
hope,
understand what the job is,
we always hope that.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I have throughout my time witnessed the opposite.
So, and can I just point out, this is election year for the Board of Selectmen and 2 members are up for election, so if we do this, it could be another 40% that are different board members on this thing. But I think we have
That's
to
also
cross our Ts and dot our Is on this, that's my opinion. So, it's just, we could put it to vote, and if you get 3, you pass, if you don't, you don't.
Yeah, then, sure, I would only counter that, Pete, that except next year, when thankfully I'll be gone, it's gonna be a 40% like that every year. But that being said, I'm fine waiting a year on this, especially because it sounds like MGL may not require us to do this. So if we go into next May's town meeting with some type of subcommittee work stream, or even discussions amongst ourselves, like obviously the meeting, to talk around a job description, as well as competencies, to go into next May to have that handled, I'm fine with that, because again, the existing town clerk, Karen, who's wonderful, has 2 more years on her thing. So this wouldn't even be in effect for 2 years. So I think waiting to make people comfortable. Joe, did I say that right?
You mentioned MGL will require us to do what?
Oh, no, what doesn't? No, it doesn't. I thought initially that it would require the ballot, the town meeting and legislative approval.
Okay.
But it sounds like it's only ballot and legislative.
You left.
No, I'm sorry, ballot and town meeting,
So we have
which
to make
makes,
sure, are we sure of
helps our
it?
time.
Are we
No,
sure?
That's where,
That's what I wanna make sure of.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that this is not required, because if it is required, then we're not gonna make it. So
Well-
how about we do the placement for that, checking on that,
State approval would be after.
right, after all these things have to happen.
After May.
Well, how about this just,
May
We'd
after
get it-
November.
We'd get it in November, yeah.
I think everyone kind of feels strongly one way or another on this, so in order to move us along, at least for discussion, I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone this until next May.
Second.
David,
Discussion.
what do I do?
You have a motion and a second, so.
Yeah.
Any more
So-
discussion?
Any more discussion? No?
I've talked myself on this, but like I said, this is a good idea, so.
So call vote, right? So Pete,
No,
Generals.
is it general vote? So pass, right? Because we want to.
No, you have.
Oh, I just asked.
We haven't
You
voted.
said-
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you ask for the vote.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
I thought you.
I made the motion, he
He
made the
second.
second, but I didn't know that we took the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Like,
Nay.
3-2.
All right. That being said, I would, Madam Chair, I'd like to have this as very quickly that we start a process to get this on the May ballot next year, by having competencies, by having a job description and working with Karen to figure out, I mean this nicely, what exactly is it you do? Because I don't think most people really understand it.
Yeah, if there is, and Andrew, what the company that just came in, I know.
right, we're in the process right now, doing a common glass evaluation.
And if we can also check out the town council opinion about if we need legislative approval, because if we don't, that makes our life a lot easier next year.
Yeah, just as a member of the committee, I like their ideas of having, when you go to them, you have a list of competency. This is what you have to be here.
Yeah.
This is this is the job description. And if you go to the town meeting with that
Yeah.
kind of stuff,
That's what I'm thinking.
and the questions come up, oh, this is this, you can expand.
You want that for
questions.
any department, any department. head
I know we already voted on it, but to your point, I think the obligatory question is, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And what is the impact? Oh, look, here's our paper that says that. I think it'll help.
Right, and that they know that, well, we're gonna trust that you're not gonna, play games with the description for the job later. We have it. This is what we're offering. This is what we're proposing.
And when if it's voted, that's what's voted.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Madam Chair, I'd actually take a step further and have a recurring item, if the board pleases, to start to nail all, like truly develop plans for all 12 of these, because I'm actually in agreement with all 12. Yeah, we just need to figure out the potential execution of them.
Yeah, we can't let this fall off.
This is a point from the committee. One of the things I've done in the past and other places I've worked, every month we pick a policy or a question And that would be what we work on that month. And then the next one would be in next month. So we weren't gonna try to do all 12 at one time. Just do this one and do the next one and do the next one, in whichever order would be appropriate.
Should that 11, the recommendation for the new committee be formed every 5 years, should that be put in the bylaws somewhere too? So it's firm?
Could be a board of selectmen policy.
I think
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, I think-
Yeah, we could do 5, 6. In this case, it was, well, 6 years. But don't want to have it too close together.
Okay, so the policy, okay, so the 11, the policy, and the 12. So that is kind of what I had in mind when we were talking with economic development on the 5-year plan in general. That could be a component of that. I know they started to work on it. I don't know what that is, you know, that could be nice.
I think the
to-
town should be reviewed every 5 years in
Right.
general.
Yeah,
How's this going?
I agree.
How's that going? Should we change?
I agree. All right. Super, great work.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. Madeline and Jacob, maybe guys for you. So about going back to what Barry and Joe said about the voluntarism, maybe you want to think about it, put some thought into it. How would you approach that on the school level as to maybe NHS, you know, the societies? Because I know myself that every time we have tried through all different communities that we are on to get the kids in, something is lacking there,
Okay.
you know, and oftentimes we can use them. Jacob, you too in Bay Path.
We should
You know-
make the town clerk position the scholarship question.
Well, there is one, right? I haven't pointed it.
I can't really get so cool passes.
Yeah, Madeline, can you come up with some kind of an idea for next meeting? Just, I'm just curious to know, because that we need it for summer for you too, Jacob, yeah? That would be awesome.
I mean, that's a little there, carry on, but I think the same thing with the constable role too, because that's a highly technical position. I think we have to establish competencies for us, so we're not just playing the popularity game and picking somebody, so.
I think
Why shouldn't we do it all for them?
competencies for all the positions.
That's what I was going to say.
But that goes back to 12, where I think we ought to have goals and policies and things in place. So when things come up, you've got a policy to work with. And again, I like to say too often, but you need a policy on how you accept your policies. There's a thing in the corporate world of Sarbanes-Oxley, and companies have to follow their policies. And if they don't, they have to have justification for it. That's just a general comment.
Absolutely agreed. I also agree with Keith. I mean, there shouldn't be a single appointed position in this town that we have not identified competencies for before we make it happen.
I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to note for the record, this is the first time that Bill has agreed with me on anything.
Very cool.
Change my mind.
Maybe the fire station will cost us 12 million.
I'll raise his rate now.
All right, thank you guys. Moving on. Policy review.
All right, so we have policies in the packet for highway department, wetlands operating procedures, inspectional services, fee, fine appeal, inspection, servicing and training for liquor license holders, land policy and process under MGL 61, 61A and 61B, and licenses. The first one, there are no changes recommended by DPW. For the inspectional services, simply a caveat added that this policy is applicable to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D, or MGL 148A, Sections 1 through 5, that are specific to the appeals process. One is changed to the inspection for training for liquor license holders. Just mainly in line with state regulations, striking establishments have 6 months to comply with this policy.
So I'm sorry, Vash, to you. So Andrew, just to confirm on that. So the existing law under C.
Yeah.
Is new employees will have 3 months from the date of employment,
Correct.
like that's what the state says.
Correct.
Cool, okay. So ours was a little bit too generous.
Exactly. Yep.
That's all.
No changes on the land policy process and. What is it? Licenses, no change.
All right.
Andrew, one quick thing though, under, and through the board, back to you, I'm sorry. Under licenses, can we remove that line that says amount decrease from 1,000 just for that?
Yep.
Just so people know.
Easy.
don't change this. So if it pleases the board, I'd make a motion to accept all of them as submitted, but if you're not, I'll be happy to take one at a time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Student select person reports. Madeline?
So. Starting with athletics, I like to start with that one every time, but, varsity wrestling team has had 3 members place at the Division II championships. And congratulations to Sawyer Awat placing first at championships, as well as first in all-state championships, and he will go on to compete in the varsity cheer, team won first place at leagues and won grand champs for the day. Dudley Middle and Charlton Middle both placed as well, so congrats to their cheerleading teams. For track, the boys in the 4x200 relay team placed 16th in the state competition, as well as being the 3rd fastest squad to run the 4x200 in school history. And then I didn't put this on paper, but I just wanted to add that spring sports registrations have opened and students wanting to participate can participate at shepherdhillathletics.com. In the arts, the Tri-M Honor Society is hosting a musical bingo game night on March 28th for students at Shepherd Hill. Again, this is not added on here, but I believe this will be opening to the public. But I'll provide further information on that. Players have a chance to win up to $5 or $150 in categories like trending, retro hits, Disney, and left K-pop. For school-wide, the Best Buddies organization will be holding an Uno tournament on Thursday, March 14th from 6 to 8 for students of Shepherd Hill. Sign-up can be found at Diagram 206, and there's a $5 registration fee. Time ends on Friday, March 1st. Finally, the guidance office wants to remind parents to reach out to your child's guidance counselor if they seem to be struggling with any extra support, mentally and in school. And contacts are available at bcrsd.org. That's it.
Thanks, Mel.
All right, Jacob?
So as of today, students at BayPath will be entering into the second half of the 3rd quarter with midterm grades being issued on Friday. The National Honor Society is currently accepting applications with the deadline being March 8th. The Student Council and Steering Committee are currently planning on a school dance for March 16th. MCAS state testing for English is approaching for the sophomores in the coming weeks, with other subjects following in the later months. On April 11th, there will be a career fair in the gym from 1 p.m. to 2:30. Lastly, for general information and events, the next General Advisory Committee meeting will be held on April 3rd. For student achievements and sports happenings, the girls basketball team has won the state vocational championship last Sunday.
Nice, very cool.
A group of students will be participating in the MIT Invent Team Design Challenge. Also, with the warmer weather approaching, the ski club season is ending.
Very nice. Go ahead, Jacob.
All right, town administrator.
All right, public safety radio update. So we'll continue to work on the progress of the public safety radio system. Planning board approved the site plan approval for the tower site up at BayPath last week. Materials for the lattice tower have been delivered to the site. We'll begin construction soon. We're still targeting end of fiscal year for this tower to be up in operation. LNG plant. So we were made aware of some noise complaints stemming from the commission work going on over at NEC. Plant managers and engineers are aware of the issue, and right now Mass DEP and Board of Health are right on top of them to try to address it. So Health Department and Mass DEP are both ensuring that sound dampening for the facility is adequately tuned and not impact budding residential properties, and got to continue to press them on that issue. But in the meantime, if there's any residents in the area that are experiencing any of these noise impacts, they can either contact our office or the Board of Health, so that we can ensure that any issues are documented and being addressed as they're going through the evaluation.
Does this, Andrew, does this seem to be happening just because of commissioning or
So
normal operation?
my understanding is that there is a baffling system that is attached to the turbines and that need to be acoustically tuned. That is really only identified during the commissioning process. So I know Mass DP has been very pushing them hard to say, this needs to be done immediately. It can't continue on night after night. So that's at least what has been conveyed to me as the reason why, and it shouldn't be during normal operation. So Route 20 construction over to Oxford, I know during this meeting was the public, information session, but we met yesterday with representatives of Mass DOT who gave us a heads up on the update that they would be providing and the phase plan in advance of tonight's meeting. Some of the good news was that they're anticipating a much more aggressive timetable for completion of the project, since they were able to expedite some of the culvert and utility work. They actually moved the due date up a full year, from what they were anticipating. But they did indicate that over the next construction period, that travel within the corridor is going to be restricted down to one lane in each direction. Mainly, this is to provide additional protection for the contractors, allow them to work a little bit faster, but also address concerns related to speed through that work zone. I'm sure you might have seen the Telegram Gazette that was the concern related about the speed at which people are traveling through there. But it was kind of brought up by Mass DOT District 3 Director to me at the end of it, is that there still are have to provide us some plans for the reconstruction that they're anticipating between 49 and the Amazon project. He said I should be getting something more from them soon, so I'm assuming that they brought their plans back to the drawing board and hopefully came with a different plan, but we'll see.
You can assume, why, we were also in favor of this.
Exactly. And then finally, just for the senior center, so we did receive two submittals for the proposal for lease space for the use of the senior center. I've taken those, referred them to the Council on Aging to at least evaluate and provide a recommendation as to what one we potentially want to pursue. Additionally, the feasibility plans that we had commissioned under ARPA have been drafted for the combined senior center with arts and activities. That's being sent for cost estimation, so we should have really both at the same time that we get way back and forth.
For you. And just a quick question on the senior center piece. When would you expect we would potentially propose that to the town?
Ideally, I would have liked to, I mean, if it were with the full or if we went with a lease.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's my fault. If we went with the lease.
With a lease option, my hope was that we'd have something in time for spring. I feel like that may have been a little too idealistic. We may be looking more toward the fall.
I like that you're idealistic.
Yes.
But definitely not May.
I don't believe that we're gonna be in time for May. I think that was, hey, if everything fell into place and there was a number right on the front, and it was like, yep, this is definitely that. But I think there needs to be a little bit more vetting done with what the proposals that we received were. They're very drastically different proposals. I think we have to really take our time to go through. And then I would say if we move forward with either of them, it wouldn't be till fall.
Perfect, thank you. That's what I was hoping to say, because I would feel very uncomfortable. Perhaps others would agree with me on rushing through something that big until we get our ops budget finalized. So yeah, no, I think fall at the earliest is going.
And I agree with you, and I would definitely want to see the fire substation pushed through first, and
Absolutely.
potentially any support for that would be through an exclusion.
Yeah.
Separate.
All right, that's all I got.
All right. So any other business? Now the time of posting. Anybody? Next meeting. 12th, March 12th. We good? All right, that's it. Good adjourn.
Are we doing the exact session?
No,
Yes.
not tonight.
That being said, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.